and went back to sleep. He got a good night's sleep once a year. Now, about this time in that kingdom, the king had noticed that his daughter was at the marriageable age. And he said, "It's time for you to be married." And she said, "Okay." Now, this was a traditional king. He thought there had to be a challenge, and only the best, the one who won this challenge, could be worthy of marrying his beautiful daughter. And she was quite a looker. So he had constructed a very tall, very steep, very slick glass hill. And there was a chair put up on the top. And then he sent out criers, "Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay! Come, try your luck to see if you can win the hand of the princess." For any man who rode his horse up that glass hill and took a golden apple from the princess, and if he did this 3 days in a row, then he would win the hand of the princess and half the kingdom too. Well, the first day of the contest, you could hardly move. There were so many people there. There were all sorts of descriptions of men. There were tall men, short men, fat men, skinny men, rich men, poor men. There were horses of all shapes and size, and the steeds that pranced when they walked, the sway-back nags, the ones that could hardly walk at all. Everybody was there. Well, Boots didn't get to go. He had something to clean up. The knights came to the forefront. "This will be a short contest. We can handle this." And the first knight rode up, and he kind of pranced. He got a little bit of speed, and he started going up that hill, and he slid right back down. Well, the second one thought he was going to be smarter. You back up a little bit, you get more speed, you can get further up that hill. And so he backed up, and he went at it with a full charge, and he got part way and had to come back down. I mean, just slid. And this went on all day long. Time after time, they would get part way up the hill and slide back down. No one was succeeding. Sundown. The king thought, nobody's going to be able to do this today. We'll just have to stop and start again tomorrow. And someone yelled, "There's one more rider!" And off in the distance they saw a copper knight riding on a beautiful bay horse. And he rode right up through the crowd. And he just rode up the hill as if there was no problem at all. Took the golden apple from the princess. Turned and rode away. The princess thought this was pretty cool. He was a little frustrated because he didn't know who he was. And everybody was talking about this copper knight. The farmer and his sons came home, and they were talking. And Boots was saying, "Tell me about it." And they said, "Get busy, we want supper." And they got their supper. The next day, there were even more people there. And, the knight said, "Well, he can do it. We can do it." And they tried again. And the same thing happened that day as it happened before. Try. They got partway up the hill, and then they slid back down until about sundown. And everybody started watching to see if the copper knight was going to come back. And I mean, their eyes were peeled. A rider's coming! And sure enough, through the crowd, they were watching, and it was a silver knight. And he was riding on a coal black horse, and he rode right through the crowd. He rode right up the hill, took the golden apple from the princess, and turned and rode away. Oh, two. Two. The king was not pleased, but he thought, okay, we'll try this tomorrow. And the next day, there was so many people there. Of course, all the young ladies wanted to see who the knights were that were doing this. Perhaps one would lose, and they would want a second choice. The men thought, yeah, they can do it, I can do it, and they tried, and it was just like it had been the day before. They were right part way up, and then they would slide back down. Sundown came, And everybody was looking. There wasn't even conversation going on. Everybody was watching to see who was going to come. Was it going to be the copper knight? Was it going to be the silver knight? No, a rider's coming, and it's a knight of gold. And he's riding on a snow white horse, and he rode right through the crowd, and he rode right up that hill, and he took the golden apple, and he rode away without a word. Three. The king was at this point very angry, and he told all the men to come to the castle, and right then and there. And they called people from around there, come to the castle, and they emptied their pockets and they emptied their bags, and they were going to find those golden apples, and nobody had them. So the king decided to send his page out, and he went from house to house and town to town and farm to farm trying to find those golden apples. And he went and he went and he went, and no golden apples. Finally, he came to the farm of the farmer and his 3 sons. And he asked if they had the apples, and boy, did they wish they'd had those apples. But they didn't. And the page said, "My king is going to be so displeased with me. I've got to find those apples." "Well, have you tried the Sundstrom farm down the road?" "Yes, we tried the Sundstroms. They didn't have it." And the Bjornbergs, did you try them? No, they didn't have them either. And then the page caught sight of Boots over fixing something in the kitchen, and he said, "Well, what about that young man?" Boots? He really didn't even get to go. Boots? "I don't think so." And then the page says, no, you don't understand. My king told me I was to talk to every man, young and old. Come over here, please. And Boots obliged. He went over it. He says, "Do you have the golden apples?" And Boots says, "Apples? You mean these apples?" You could have knocked his brothers over with a feather. Well, the page was certainly pleased about this, and he took Boots back to the castle, and he cleaned up very well. For the princess was quite pleased, and the king was pleased, because it wasn't 3, it was only 1. And there was a wedding celebration, unlike any celebration that there had been before. And Boots and his princess ruled half that kingdom, and eventually all of the kingdom, and they lived, as they say, happily ever after. That was The Princess and the Glass Hill, which is, Sweden claims it, Norway claims it, Denmark claims it. It's Scandinavian.
We keep the stories by giving the stories to people who take them and give them again. In the circle of tellers, the circle of listeners, who become the tellers of stories that circle the heart like old friends.